Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today to attend our webinar. Most of us have witnessed the challenges that come with taking care of aging loved ones, whether family or friends. As advisors, we know that long-term care can be confusing, difficult, and has significant impacts on our clients' current and future financial situations. Additionally, long-term care events affect caregivers and their families quite significantly. For that reason, we have Amy Lozier from Ash Brokerage with us here today. Amy has extensive knowledge of various long-term care solutions and also understands the personal side of long-term care as she provided for both of her parents in their latter years. Before I hand it over to Amy, I want to touch on a few logistics. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen that you can use to submit any questions that may arise during our presentation. We will address those towards the end. Additionally, we as a team host a recurring caregiving support group that was detailed in the webinar invite. Our next planned meeting is this Saturday at 10 a.m. here in our office. If that is of interest, please revisit that email and RSVP accordingly. Now I will hand it over to Amy so we can dive into the content. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'm very proud to be here to visit with you about long-term care planning. Thank you for attending, and thank you to Philip and my hosts with Legacy Financial Group. My name is Amy Lozier. I'm a long-term care planning specialist with Ash Brokerage. I have almost 20 years experience in long-term care planning, a couple certifications, insurance license, and so forth. I value, though, as much my personal experience as the daughter of two parents who've needed care as much as any education and work experience that I've had. I would like to also take a moment to let you know that although I live here in Kansas City, I'm a military brat. So I spent most of my life in Virginia. We were in Alexandria and Springfield during Vietnam years to show my mid-60s age. I went to high school and middle school down in Colonial Heights. So, we have that love of Virginia in common. Today, here's our agenda. What is long-term care? Why is planning for a long-term care or extended healthcare event important? During our conversation today, we'll dispel some myths about Medicare and Medicaid and how they fit into long-term care planning. And we'll also look at some of the private insurance options that are available in the marketplace today. In my near 20 years in this industry, I would argue that we have some of the best solutions ever available today, and they have such terrific flexibility. So through conversation, we can hone in on what plans you may be interested in looking at. But we're not going to talk about any particular product today. We're just going to discuss what is long-term care and why you might want to have a plan. What is long-term care? Long-term care is an extended healthcare event. It's not something acute like I need a surgery or a medication that I can work with my physician to address, but rather long-term care is extended healthcare needs, chronic care needs that affect our ability to manage our basic activities of daily living. So a long-term care solution would help provide custodial care to help you ideally remain at home as you age. But please know that any solutions, any plans with insurance carriers that we would look at together, they are what's called comprehensive. And what that means is wherever you might need the care would be available through a policy. Home health care, adult daycare, that's something I didn't even know existed until I entered into this industry. An example of adult daycare might be if you've got, God forbid, an early onset Alzheimer's diagnosis with one spouse. Maybe it's the wife, and the husband still needs to be out there working outside the home to support the family. So adult daycare could be where the wife spends during the day to keep her safe, fed, in activities, etc., while the husband is at work. Assisted living facilities where you'd go live where the care is. Skilled nursing homes which include end-of-life hospice and memory care. Memory care is where my dad resides today. Why is planning important? The longer we live and life expectancy continues to rise in the United States, it dipped down a little bit during COVID, but in general, each year with, all the food that's available for us today and all the healthcare that's available today, longevity is definitely on the rise in the United States. One could argue the longer we live, the higher care costs will be when we need help. The longer we live, the odds of us needing care also increase. Both of my parents and my Uncle Jim needed help either due to aging brains or aging bodies at age 84. I wish I could see your hands. We're not all in the same room with today's technology, but if you had a hand to raise, what is your plan? You may think about, I always encourage people to think about their loved ones when they think about long-term care planning. Have you had an experience with long-term care? For me, it's been my mom and dad. My mother due to an aging brain, my dad needing help, getting around. And so I think when we talk about long-term care, it's good to think about your oldest living relatives, maybe your mom and dad. I'm 63. My dad's just 91. My mother would have been 92 today. So if you think about your loved ones, when you think about long-term care, how are your parents aging? Do they need help? Where do they live? Who's providing that help? If they need care, who's paying for that care? Because I think sometimes when we think about someone we care about, it makes us want to put a plan in place so that we're not leaning on our children to provide care, disrupting their lives, their career and so forth. If you have had a long-term care experience, maybe ponder on that, what you're observing and how that might affect your decision of what sort of planning you want to do for your own household down the road. If you haven't had an experience with long-term care like I have with my parents, do you agree that the longer you live, there's a greater likelihood that your health will be compromised in a way that you may need someone to provide assistance, whether it's at the house coming to you or where you go live where the care is. If you need care, it's going to impact the people you love. And I will say that again, if you need care, it's going to affect the people you love. You'll hear a lot of men, when we think about long-term care, they'll say things like, oh, just take me out back and shoot me like a good horse. My dad's line to my mom when he was about my age was, oh, just put me out with Thursday's trash. But in all seriousness, if you do need care and you don't have a plan in place, it may be that your loved ones, your kiddos, your grandkids, your spouses are going to have to step up and provide care. When that happens, that can change relationships, that can disrupt lives. And so by putting a plan in place, where you can get professional care, you can keep those relationships with your kids and your grandkids and your spouse more largely intact. Extended care is expensive today. I do this every day, and I'm still shocked when I see the numbers for care costs. So, because it's expensive, we need to have a plan. It's your decision on whether you decide to put insurance in place or not. Maybe you decide to self-fund, but it's worthy of a conversation on your own and with your partners at Legacy Financial Group to find out how, if you do have an extended healthcare need, how are you going to fund that? What we're looking at here are average monthly costs, average annual costs for home care, assisted living, and nursing homes. So we're looking at Virginia care costs, and these are averages. You're going to find where some care is less and some care costs a lot more. If you live a creme de la creme lifestyle, you might want to be looking at affording creme de la creme care. So here, and this was my parents' experience, they had care about 3 hours every morning. Bill and Joanne, if you had your meds, are bed linens clean and dry? Does anybody need a shower? Can I put the laundry in? Bringing the newspaper and mail in from the mailbox. And then coming back 3 hours in the evening. Bill and Joanne, have you had your evening meds? Have you had your supper? Maybe redressing the beds, moving laundry from, the washer to the dryer. About 44 hours a week, you could be looking at about 62,000 a year per person at today's care costs. Assisted living for a year, about 54,000 a year, and skilled nursing home, private room on average, about 108,405. So again, when we talk about self-funding, be aware those are the care costs today per person for a year of care. Care costs are rising on average about 5% a year in the United States. So whereas we're looking at 62,000 thereabouts for a year of care at the house today, in 15 years we're looking at that doubling. And so it's kind of staggering. I'm 63, average claims are 79 to 82. And so we're not looking at like today's dollar, we're looking at what the care costs could be projected down the road. Some of the future cost projections for a 3-year extended healthcare event, 676,000 for nursing home. That's a private room, assisted living, home care. So when you're thinking about, self-funding, these are some dollars amount that we're seeing today on average in Virginia for a 3-year healthcare event. Here's a survey that when I'm working with clients and their advisors, I like to provide along with any quotes, any illustrations we look at, so that you can see how your policy would perform, how it would pay, care bills if you need care. And then I like to show this survey so that you can compare that against what care costs are. So maybe your policy is going to fall short. How much self-funding would you maybe have to do after your carrier partner has paid your monthly care bill? So in Richmond, presently, we're looking at about $5,400 a month for home care. That's assuming about 44 hours a week. I don't have a stat for Richmond for adult daycare. Assisted living costs are typically comparable to home care costs. And then looking at semi-private and private nursing home costs in Richmond today. I'm assuming that someone would need care maybe 25 years down the road, and look at the, projected growing costs of care. And that is per person per month. So kind of staggering. Medicaid and Medicare. What I'd like to do in the next couple of slides is dispel some misconceptions in the United States today about Medicaid and Medicare and how the government will or won't help with extended healthcare needs. Will the government take care of you, Medicare and Medicaid? Let's dive in a little further on Medicare. Though Medicare does have some skilled nursing home care, it's after and if you've had a 3-day hospital stay prior to that. An example could be my grandpa Donnelly. He went down in the cellar, wasn't supposed to, fell, broke his hip, and had a hospital stay for that surgical repair. He had some physical therapy in the hospital, but then needed more and went to skilled nursing for that. So Medicare would have covered his surgical repair and his physical therapy, and in a nursing home setting, but only for the first 20 days, after which there's more co-insuring, out of pocket after Medicare has paid. if you need care in a nursing home after 101 days, there are no Medicare benefits at all. And so Medicare is more oriented to acute health situations, and we're talking about extended healthcare needs, okay? Medicare does not have, in most states, home care or assisted living care. So, that's where a private insurance solution could step in for if you're like my dad, 5 years of care at the house, mom, 3 years at the house, Uncle Jim, 5 years and counting at his home in Pittsburgh, where I'm from. If we think about Medicaid, Medicaid is a public system, but it is designed for less affluent citizens here in the United States. Though one might clinically qualify to get help from Medicaid, do you financially qualify to meet the Medicaid requirements? Your income and assets need to be at near, impoverished levels. And so though Medicaid could be there, you may have too many assets to financially qualify. Medicaid also is skilled nursing. And I want to point out that only 13% of long-term care claims are in nursing homes. We always think about nursing homes, but only 13% of care is there. 13% is at assisted living. 74% of the care that people receive is at the house. The vast majority of us want to age in place, with our family pictures around. My parents were big collectors of antiques. And so Medicaid is nursing home oriented. And our Medicaid facility is going to be at the level of care that you're accustomed to. And is that Medicare nursing home going to be near enough to your home? Now, many skilled nursing facilities, many nursing homes do have some beds dog-eared for Medicaid. So someone may have insurance that brought them to Sunflower Nursing Home. And it may be that they run out of long-term care benefits. Forgive me, I've got construction going on here at the house. So although, pardon me, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, I'll come back to it. So you may financially qualify or may clinically qualify for Medicaid, but financially it may not be there. And Medicaid, again, is nursing home oriented. It does not have home care. Now, you may think that, well, I'll just make myself look financially eligible for Medicaid and move money around. But in Virginia and most other states, because although there's some federal funding, Medicaid is largely state oriented. There's a 5-year look back period. So if you moved some assets, Medicaid still might count it if you're turning to them for help and you've moved assets out of your pocket within the last 5 years. Let's look at some private long-term care options available today. And as I mentioned, I think that the carriers have listened to people like Legacy Financial and myself and consumers of care and owners of policies, and they've really listened and put some really fine products in the marketplace today. Long-term care insurance options. And by the way, any policies that would pay out benefits, those benefits are available income tax free. So you don't need to worry about anything with your state and federal filings. Long-term care benefits are available to you tax free. There are 2 ways you can qualify for your long-term care benefits. Like I own a policy, my parents owned policies. There's 2 ways that you can benefit from your policy. One is if you have a significant cognitive or memory issue. That was the diagnosis for my mother, uh, needing in having memory care. It started out with leaving chocolate chips out of her famous chocolate chip cookie cake. And then escalated to she would go to the library, which she went to all the time, and then have trouble making her way back to the house. With my father, he had the inability to independently perform at least 2 activities of daily living. What are activities of daily living? They're things you and I, manage every day without thinking about it. Transferring is just your ability to move around your house. My dad had the need of a walker. On continence, let's think of like when you wake up in the morning, you can hold your body functions as you make your way to the bathroom. That's continence. Can you navigate independently when you're in the bathroom? My dad had falls in the bathroom, a very hard surfaced, unforgiving place to fall down, ambulance to the house, stitches and so forth. So for my dad, he had issues with transferring and toileting and bathing. So do you need standby shower assistance as an example? Do you need assistance getting yourself dressed, getting yourself fed? Long-term care policies benefits would kick in if you have the inability to independently perform 2 of these 6 activities of daily living. Some of the solutions available today, there's 3 basic types. I'm kind of a visual thinker. I think of standalone long-term care as a bucket of money, and your monthly benefit is a ladle that you can use to pay your care providers. Standalone long-term care solutions, you pay your premium every year, and the benefits that you have grow each year. Why? Because the care costs go up each year. That's the kind of solution I own. That's the kind of solution my mom and dad and my uncle own. But with these traditional long-term care solutions, if you don't need care, you're like my grandmother Edie, and you just don't wake up one morning, you had peace of mind that you had that policy if you needed care. But if you pass away never needing care, that premium is gone. You have no benefits to show for it. So in the market today, we've seen carriers come up with products that have death benefit chassis, so that if you don't have an extended healthcare event, or it doesn't last very long, when you pass away, you've got a death benefit to go to your loved ones. So we've seen a lot of interest in these hybrid plans. Some of them have permanent life insurance chassis, and some of them have annuity chassis. The annuity chassis tend to be for older clients, but just know that those have living long-term care benefits and death benefits both. And we'll dive a little bit into some case studies of each type. What are some of the building blocks of a long-term care solution? They typically have a monthly benefit, which I referred to as a ladle, and they have a benefit period. How long is your bucket of money expected to last? People buy policies, oftentimes 4- and 5-year plans are purchased. There's a few carriers that offer a bucket of money that will never run out. You could ladle out as long as you need to. And we have seen people with Alzheimer's diagnoses. My mentor in this industry, his mother-in-law needed care for 15 years. And so if you have longevity in your family, maybe you want to explore an option where you could never run out of benefits. Inflation protection options. As I mentioned earlier, care costs rise each year. And so if you are in your 40s, 50s, even my age, early to mid 60s, it might make sense for us to have a rider on your policy so that bucket of money gets larger each year, and that ladle, that monthly benefit to pay care bills, that they get larger so that your policy stays meaningful against rising care costs. That doesn't mean your premium's going to go up every year like maybe auto and home. Your premium's intended to remain level, but your policy's benefits grow. Insurance oftentimes has deductibles like your auto insurance. In long-term care, they call that an elimination period. Some products don't have any deductibles. So as soon as a physician says you've got memory issues or the inability to perform activities of daily living, like my dad needing standby shower assistance and a walker, most policies have where you pay your first 3 months of care, and then your policy starts paying out benefits. So you've got a policy that's expected to last a certain amount of time and a monthly benefit to pay your care bills. There's lots of flexibility in the plan designs. And so the art of conversations with your partners at Legacy Financial Group is finding that balance between a price tag, a premium with which you're comfortable, and the benefits you seek. And just know that if you schedule, a private meeting, we can, find that balance and show illustrations until you feel, yes, this is the carrier I want to work with, and this is the right price tag and plan design. So lots of flexibility in how we design solutions. We can tailor them to each household. On traditional policies, here's an example of a policy that is just long-term care. The policy would start out with $5,000 a month, which would be pretty good at addressing Richmond area monthly home care costs and assisted living care costs, would put a nice dent in a nursing home care bill. The policy is designed to last 3 years. So basically you start out with like $5,000, that monthly benefit times 3 years, you start out with a bucket of money, about $180,000. But if this couple was, say, my age, I'd recommend a 3% compound growth rider so that in 15, 20 years, you're looking at a doubling or more of that policy's benefits, again, because care costs have been rising. With the hybrid solutions, policies that have maybe a universal life or a whole life chassis, if we think of it as like a car, they can have a long-term care rider. You have the ability to pay long-term care bills if you have extended healthcare needs. If you don't, your loved ones, in the form of a tax-free death benefit, could receive money from the policy. So with these hybrids, you, the insured, or your loved ones can benefit from those premium dollars that you spend. There's 2 types of billing with long-term care plans. They're called reimbursement and indemnity. And what does that mean? With a receipts reimbursement policy like my parents and my Uncle Jim have, the people who care for you turn in your monthly care bill. You're turning your care receipts to your insurance carrier. And that insurance company is going to look at your policy and see what your monthly benefit is in that year, because remember, the benefits grow, and they're going to reimburse that turned in care bill up to what your monthly benefit is. If your monthly bill is higher than the income from your policy that month, then you may receive a bill from, say, Sunflower Nursing Home or Home Instead for the balance due, just like you may have with your health insurance, where you give the doctor permission to bill the insurance company for you, and you don't see a bill until and unless there's a balance due. The other kind of billing with long-term care is called indemnity or a cash plan. These are pretty flexible. You don't have to turn in your care bills each month. Your insurance company is going to pay your full monthly benefit in cash. This can be nice. One, as you age, do you want to mess with billing? But also with a cash indemnity plan, you have the flexibility on who you hire. You could hire a nice retired nurse next door. Maybe your adult granddaughter's home from college. She needs a job. You need care. Rosie the robot, or a home healthcare agency or skilled nursing home. So with a cash indemnity plan, you have greater flexibility on who you can hire. If you envision yourself wanting to pay a loved one or someone in your neighborhood, it may be that of the types of solutions available today, you want to inquire about a plan that has cash, so that you can not just work with a home healthcare agency, but with Joe Citizen. Many of the solutions today, the traditional plans and these with hybrids, you can add a spouse. So you can have one policy serving both partners. My parents had what's called a shared rider. They had 2 5-year policies with like a bridge between them, a shared rider. My dad needed 5 years of care at the house. My mom needed 3, and then she passed away. So there were 2 unused years. It's at that time that my dad needed to be moved from the house to memory care. And so my dad right now is using the 2 years my mom didn't use of the policy. So a shared rider that bridges the 2 spouses can give you greater flexibility. Okay. And then I also mentioned that there are some solutions that have a bottomless bucket of money. If you've got both spouses on a policy, maybe you want to be able to have both spouses ladle out as long as they need. And it's just a matter of finding that sweet spot of a price you want to pay for your premium and the benefits you seek. Here's an example of a life long-term care hybrid solution. We've got a 60-year-old male, non-tobacco. He's married, so he's got a couple's discount. Sometimes you have a partner that already has a long-term care solution in place, maybe through her work, or maybe you've got a spouse that has an MS diagnosis, or already has memory issues and isn't insurable. With many solutions, you can still have a partner discount just because you're legally married. So this gentleman's 60 years old, non-tobacco, married, resides in Colonial Heights, where I went to school. He's deposited in this hybrid $100,000, because the hybrids you can pay over time or pay the premium once and done. Okay. So he's opted for a single premium of $100,000. Maybe that's life cash value, right? Maybe it's cash, because we can even take existing assets you have and use those to fund another policy. So 100,000, he has a bucket of money for long-term care that's starting out at 477,613. His ladle, that monthly benefit to pay his care bills, starts out at 6634. Again, terrific for that Richmond area for home care and assisted living. And 13% of claims are in assisted living, 74% of claims on average are at the house. If someone ends up at costly or skilled nursing, maybe you'll have some out of pocket after your carrier is paid. If this gentleman is like my grandmother Edie and just doesn't wake up one morning, because his policy is a hybrid with living and death benefits, if he doesn't need care, he's got $159,205 coming back to his loved ones in the form of a tax-free death benefit. This is just an example of a hybrid solution. I mentioned earlier that there's also solutions that have an annuity chassis. Those are typically for clients that are older. We have some solutions that will go up surprisingly to beyond age 80, to age 85, and with exceptions to age 87. So for those who've waited to plan, there still might be a solution. The annuity hybrids can also be attractive because they have fewer health questions to get approved, which again can be attractive to older clients or clients that have, some significant health issues where life insurance carriers for those kinds of hybrids would say no, thank you. If you've got, these would be single premium versus being able to pay the premium over time. If you've got any non-qualified annuities with gains, taxable gains, we could do what's called a 1035 exchange, where the carrier who has that annuity, we take that money over to the carrier that has annuity and long-term care benefits in a tax-free exchange, to where you could fund your policy with that old style annuity and avoid the taxable gains. How nice is that? And end up with a policy that's got annuity benefits if you don't need care, and long-term care benefits as you do if you do need care. So traditional long-term care policies, just a bucket and a ladle, and those with life insurance or annuity chassis that have living and death benefits. Here's an example of a 75-year-old female. She resides in Richmond. She's been widowed. She has some money from life insurance from her husband's passing. So she's making available $200,000 for a policy that would give her a $553,000+ bucket for paying long-term care bills. She would have a benefit that's nice and rich that would cover, most skilled nursing situations or home or assisted living at $91.25 a month. If she doesn't need care, her premium dollars spent still work for her in the form of a death benefit. So at $220,000+ would go to whoever she designates as her beneficiary for a tax-free death benefit. When people talk about self-funding long-term care, it gives me a little bit of pause, because I'm aware of how expensive care is today, and that it's rising at about 5% each year. And so what this slide is for is, if you were to ask someone, if you want to buy, $1 of something, would you rather spend $1.40 to get it, $1.20 to get it, $1 to buy that dollar, or would you rather pay, 10 cents, 40 cents on the dollar for that care? Now, most everybody, if you ask it like that, they're going to say, well, gosh, I want to pay 10 cents for that dollar of care. But what this is trying to illustrate is, if you are going to fund your care with qualified money, 401k. Maybe there's some teachers on the line with us today that have 403b retirement plans, pension plans, traditional IRAs. If you're using that to pay for your care, it may be that you've got some taxation here that's going to make you pay more than $1 for that dollar of care. If you've got any stocks, mutual funds, real estate, what's the market like? We know when you go to sell that real estate, how fast can you get these funds? And are you going to be paying some taxes to pay for that dollar of care? If you've got cash on hand, that's $1 for $1. If you've got insurance, you may be paying, overall $100,000 for a policy, and maybe you've got $770,000 in long-term care that you've received for it. So nice leverage with insurance. And not everybody puts a plan in place. Not everybody who does put an insurance policy in place is insuring the full amount. But many of us have policies to at least provide an income stream from your insurance to help pay those care bills. In addition to having that income stream, you also, when you have private insurance, you've got a carrier advocate to help identify care in your area and to help make sure that the people who care for you have care plans like dietary and exercise plans. So in conclusion, if you decide to put a plan in place or just want to talk about self-funding, My hope is that you'll schedule time with your partners at Legacy Financial Group, that this session today will spur you to action, to schedule some private time, to visit with them about your family's experience with long-term care and see if there's a solution that you would like to put in place, and make your loved ones aware that you've got that solution there, for you down the road. We've got some time set aside, for question and answer. So I will stop sharing the screen and open up the microphones for Philip and myself.
Amy, thank you for that. That was very comprehensive, and um, a couple comments, couple questions. From my perspective, standalone long-term care insurance has had somewhat of a negative connotation. The simple way to put it is those types of coverages are very much you use it or you lose it. As you mentioned, the industry has come up to speed with offering those on annuity or life insurance chassis, where if you don't lose it, there's still some, residual benefit by way of a death benefit to loved ones. Some of them also have return of premium benefits as well, where you might want to pull the money out before a long-term care event or even death to use it for something else, and you can get, at least your premium back. Um, I know you touched on indemnity and reimbursement. Wanted to ask, is there a trade-off with benefit periods and the type of cash plan, whether it be indemnity or reimbursement? Typically, what I've found is the unlimited benefits from clients that have long-term care products. Those that have unlimited benefits more often than not are reimbursement policies. Is that correct?
The majority of solutions are, where you or more likely the people who care for you turn in receipts and the
Mhm,
company reimburses whoever provided your care. There's
mhm.
been an increasing movement of carriers to add either a cash feature.
Yep.
It may be limited in amount, or it may be the full monthly benefit. But there is increased interest in cash indemnity plans, and the carriers are responding with solutions. Um, Traditional standalone long-term care plans have a real place, especially with, kind of middle income households where they're maybe not as situated to pay a premium more aggressively over 5 or 10 years, or paying once and done. And so to have that, manageable recurring premium can be what some households needs. And business owners sometimes like the traditional plans because the premiums are tax qualified to where the business could pay all of or part of that premium for the insured.
Right. You mentioned single premium products. A lot of, as we know, there's always this kind of wealth transfer that occurs as people age in life with parents and so on and so forth passing away, receiving some type of inheritance. There's also other avenues to come up with single premiums. You mentioned 1035 of old non-qualified annuities that have, lower basis and some baked in gains. A lot of times what we find is somebody might have a rental property here or there and decide to sell that. They know they might realize some taxes on that, but want to turn around and use those proceeds to kind of hedge against the future cost of long-term care by way of an insurance product. And those single premium solutions do exist.
Yes, and just this week alone, I was working with a doctor and wife. He just sold his practice, and so they're making more aggressive 10-year premiums because they've got that influx of cash from selling the business. Um, Something you mentioned made me think about life cash value.
Yep.
As we age, there are many of us that have life insurance policies where, we really don't need that death benefit as much. Maybe the kiddos are through college, the house is paid for, but that life insurance policy, that variable UL or whole life policy has some cash value to it. And so we'll see clients make that tax-free exchange, kind of a rob Peter, pay Paul, moving that life cash value from a policy that just has a death benefit to one that has long-term care and a death benefit. So sometimes people fund policies using life cash value or annuities or IRAs. There's lots of ways to skin the premium cat.
Mhm. It really boils down to all the other financial factors, and a lot of folks perceive insurance and life insurance as it's this kind of locked in strategy, but now you can be a little bit more strategic and flexible by moving some things around. You mentioned the elimination periods and the deductibles. What's a standard elimination period that you see in common practice? Is that
Most
30 days, 60 days, or 90 days?
90 days is what we see most commonly. So basically, you could think of yourself as self-funding the first 3 months of your care.
Mhm.
And at that point, if you've got a recurring premium, your premium would stop and your policy is going to start paying out benefits. But I've noticed a lot of the hybrids that have that death benefit and long-term care, a lot of those don't have a deductible, or maybe they do. And in the fourth month, they reimburse the deductible. So retroactively, there's no deductible. So again, the carriers, I think, are listening to consumers, and products are evolving, to serve people's needs today.
How about issue ages for the standard, kind of in that same three tier, the standalone, the hybrid life insurance, and the annuity? What are some of those kind of maximum issue ages for each types of those products?
Great question. You'll see 75 and 79 as a common maximum applicant age for standalone long-term care insurance, just that bucket and ladle. And you'll see 75, 79 as a maximum applicant age for many of those life insurance chassis long-term care solutions as well. It's the annuities that can go up to age 80 or 85 for those of us that waited to plan.
And this might be more kind of in the legal realm. Can you touch on the recovery of assets after death from Medicaid?
I'm not a Medicaid expert, but that is, I have seen that happen in friendships of my own where maybe, the house, someone's going to live in the house, but then when they pass, then Medicaid may take ownership of that property.
Right.
But you would be better served speaking with a Medicaid expert, in Virginia on the particulars for your state. In the slide presentation, I did put the link for Virginia Commonwealth Medicaid and
Mhm.
how you qualify.
Yep. And for those that are attending, we can send out the slides to you in the coming days, so you can have a copy of that. I know through my own family's personal experience, Medicaid is very cumbersome. You are limited to the availability of beds, and unless you do have the proper legal protections, I say this with an asterisk because they vary from state to state and what they're called. But something like a house that a somebody that is being covered by Medicaid doesn't intend to leave, a health event forces them to leave, and now they're on Medicaid. If they haven't done proper estate planning, like a ladybird deed is what it's referred to in Texas, or a TIA deed designation on the house, or moving that property into a trust, at least within that 5-year
Yes, a
retroactive
Medicaid
timeline,
trust.
those there is a high likelihood that Medicaid after death will make a claim. And again, it just shows that if you have been lax in planning, what you may have desired to pass on to heirs or to children may not actually come to fruition. And so that points to the fact that just beyond the Medicare and the insurance planning that goes with long-term care, it also kind of cross-pollinates over into overall estate planning, making sure you have those wills, power of attorneys, medical directives all buttoned up, so that the two individual siloed plans can be coordinated to achieve your goals and wishes.
Right. And to underscore a comment I made earlier, it's so important when people do have those informative documents and insurance policies, do your adult children know where those are? Do they know the financial planner that you're working with? So sometimes, having a meeting to say, hey, kids, everything's in order. Here's where it is. Um, that can be a good thing versus a policy might be in some drawer and the next generation doesn't know about it. You asked about ages, the maximum applicant ages. When should people, I'm asked all the time, when should people start doing long-term care planning? Oftentimes it's as we see our parents age, that's when it starts to click for us. But in general, I see less interest under the age of 50, but starting age 50, it really, people's interests are peaked as we see our parents age. At Thanksgiving and Christmas tables, and you're seeing how people are doing. It's usually 50 to 65 when a lot of people act, but just know that some solutions you can get at older ages.
Mhm.
Our health decreases. A lot of us, our health declines as we age. And so, insurance companies have the right to accept or reject our applications. And so if you wait too long to look at an insurance solution, it may be that you've got, the wrong combination of medications or, health conditions or, 4 or 5 joints replaced or what have you, that you may not be of insurable health. So, you know, um, the earlier you have the conversation, the better. Ideally, while you're still actively working, but just know that carriers are going to ask about health. If you're under age 60, you're likely to just have a telephone interview with a nurse underwriter. But if you're 60 or older, that phone interview may include some cognitive or memory questions. You get a little older and maybe you're going to have some lab work at the house. So the earlier you look, you've got less invasive underwriting, you've got a lower price tag, and you've got more time for your policy's benefits to grow.
Yeah, you touched on something that we try to emphasize a lot is that family meeting, especially across generations, where and when appropriate, but to at least let those that might be in a caregiving role know, as much as parents want to give transparency, what assets there are to be able to dip into, what insurance coverages are in place, where those documents may be, so to speak. We pride ourselves on being the hub, but it is very important to have a family meeting. Every family dynamic is different, so not going to force on and saying you got to do it at a certain age or a certain time, but at least be aware and be mindful that that will help the coordination of care down the road, especially if multiple family members will be participating in that. We've seen that, as you mentioned earlier, it can really strain relationships, and really, particular circumstances, it can actually enhance the relationships if everybody is bought into what the plan is. But there needs to be a conveyance on what the overall plan is and how it's been set up for that to be executed properly.
Right. Because, I know from my own situation with my parents who both needed care at 84. And fortunately, they'd put plans in place when they were a little younger than I am now. I'm middle of 5 children. My family's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have 4 siblings that live there, and I'm out here in Kansas City, sort of dropped off by one of the Army moves. Um, and so my role has largely been advising my family on how to interpret the policy, how to help them get on claim. But my siblings who are closer to the care, I'm there Christmas, summer, so forth. But my siblings that are boots on the ground, because there's insurance in place, they were monitoring the billing. They were monitoring the care. They weren't providers of care. And because we all knew the policy was there at that time when my parents needed care, it wasn't as emotionally charged a situation because we knew there was insurance. We knew there was a plan. We visited early, just as you counsel your clients to do.
Yeah. And You mentioned it in your intro, and I did too. There's a psychological impact. I always say that being a caregiver or witnessing long-term care, especially within a family, it really gets into every corner of your life. As much as you try to prevent it, it is a constant thing, especially when you're in a caregiver role. It is hard. You need support. So the more that you can try to mitigate some of those hard moments with a plan is what we're here to do for our clients. So um, those are most of the questions that we got. If there are any others, please send those in. But Amy, this has been helpful. This has been comprehensive. And for those that are on, reach out to us. Let us know at least what your goals are. We're not going to try to sit here and say, you need this, you need that right away. We really want to distill down, what is your overall goal? Is it to stay in your home? Is it to not exhaust all your resources so those can pass to beneficiaries? Whatever they may be, we can come up with customized solutions and make sure that we're not just using a one size fits all approach, that it is a true customized solution for you and your family. But thank you again, Amy. This has been very helpful. Thank you for those that are participating. As mentioned, we will try to send out a copy of the slides to those that were on the call today. And if you have any questions, reach out to your advisor here at Legacy. Myself, Mike, Ken, David, Sarah, we are all here to help, even if that means just answering some high level questions before we really get into the weeds, if that's necessary. So wish you all the best. Everybody have a great night, and thank you again for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amy. You too. Bye-bye.